My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away.
You are watching a forensic examination of the United States Department of Justice. We rely on the public record. We rely on the transcripts. We rely on the evidence presented in the committee room. What you are about to hear is a systematic dismantling of federal power. We do not deal in hope. We do not deal in entertainment. We deal in the mechanics of accountability. Let us begin. Attorney General Pam Bondi submitted written testimony to the United States Congress. In that written testimony, she stated two main goals for her tenure in the administration. She stated her first goal was to end the weaponization of justice. She stated her second goal was to return the Department of Justice to its core mission. That is a lie. We begin by defining this lie. The exact claim is that the Department of Justice is ending the weaponization of the justice system and returning to its core mission. The speaker is Pam Bondi. She is the Attorney General. The authority behind her is the President of the United States. She delivered this claim in a formal congressional hearing. She put it in writing. She submitted it as the foundational truth of her administration. But the forensic evidence presented in the committee room proves the exact opposite. Representative Jasmine Crockett stated plainly that the Attorney General lied about both goals. Here, play this clip.
In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite.
Representative Crockett stated that the Attorney General has intentionally done the exact opposite of what she claimed. She has weaponized justice. She has abandoned the core mission. We move to the forensic evidence from the sources. We will examine exactly what this evidence proves and exactly what it does not prove. We start with the allocation of taxpayer resources. Representative Crockett introduced evidence that the Department of Justice is spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. She named specific journalists targeted by the department. The Department of Justice arrested Don Lemon. The Department of Justice arrested Georgia Fort. Here, play this clip.
You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add,
Representative Crockett cited the President of the United States directly. The President stated that this administration took the freedom of speech away. This is a direct quote from the Commander-in-Chief. Crockett provided forensic evidence of judicial pushback against these arrests. A judge rejected the attempt to arrest Don Lemon previously. A grand jury rejected the department regarding Senator Kelly. A grand jury rejected the department regarding Senator Slotkin. The case against Tish James was dismissed. The case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. The evidence proves that the department is targeting political opponents and journalists. The evidence proves that judges and grand juries are rejecting these attempts. It does not prove these individuals committed any crimes. It proves the department is failing in court. Furthermore, Crockett noted that homes of journalists were raided. The department threatened prosecution against students protesting their actions. The department forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. Representative Crockett also submitted formal research into the congressional record. This research concerned the threat of right-wing domestic terrorism. The evidence shows that the Department of Justice scrubbed this research from its website in September. This proves the intentional removal of public data regarding domestic threats. It proves a cover-up of relevant threat data. We now examine the forensic evidence regarding Jeffrey Epstein. Representative Crockett explicitly stated she is not calling the president a pedophile. But she stated that facts matter. She presented facts from the Epstein files. Here, play this clip.
Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her.
Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. There are at least 5,000 files. These files contain more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. Crockett cited a specific file. According to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump. He spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Crockett presented another specific example from the files. She introduced notes from FBI investigators. These FBI notes describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago. He transported the victim to meet with President Trump. According to the FBI notes, Epstein bragged to Trump saying, "This is a good one." Here, play this clip.
Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, "This is a good one." Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that
this evidence proves a documented historical proximity between the president and a convicted sex offender. It proves the president is named tens of thousands of times in federal files. It does not prove criminal conduct by the president in those specific moments. It proves, as Crockett stated, that there is a lot of evidence suggesting he is very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. We now examine the forensic evidence of institutional cover-ups. Representative Crockett detailed multiple instances of the administration engaging in a cover-up. She stated the administration is complicit. She listed specific investigations blocked by the Department of Justice. The department is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of rogue agents who murdered American citizens. The department seized voter data from Fulton County. Crockett stated this was an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections. Crockett introduced evidence of bribery. She stated that federal agents have Tom Homan on tape. He is on tape accepting a bribe. The evidence shows that the Department of Justice killed the investigation into this bribe. Finally, Crockett presented evidence of an unconstitutional payment. She stated the agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday. She stated this violates the clear text of the Constitution. This evidence proves the department is protecting the executive branch from financial and criminal scrutiny. We must analyze the power and control dynamics for each piece of evidence. The Department of Justice possesses the ultimate domestic power. They have the power to indict. They have the power to arrest. They have the power to imprison. When the department arrests journalists like Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, they are exerting control over the press. When they raid the homes of journalists, they are sending a message of absolute power. This is designed to silence dissent. When the department scrubs research on right-wing domestic terrorism from its website, it controls the flow of information. It blinds the public to specific threats. When the department kills a bribery investigation into Tom Homan, it protects its enforcers. It shows that those loyal to the administration are immune to the law. The power dynamic in the hearing room itself was forensic evidence. Attorney General Pam Bondi sat at the witness table. Behind her sat survivors of sexual assault. Representative Crockett addressed these survivors directly. She thanked them for having more courage and moral clarity in their pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. She explicitly corrected the record, stating they are not victims, they are survivors. Pam Bondi refused to acknowledge these survivors. She refused to look at them. The public evidentiary record captured this dynamic perfectly. One citizen noted that Bondi's smugness toward the survivors sitting behind her was one of the worst things ever seen. Another noted that Bondi smirks almost every time some disgusting comment about the Epstein files is mentioned. This smirk is a display of power. It is a communication of untouchability. When a witness refuses to make eye contact and simply looks through a binder, it comes off as completely psychopathic and bratty, according to the public record. This is not legal defense. This is the exertion of control. She sits in the chair knowing she will not answer. She knows nothing will happen to her. As one observer noted, she can handle the pressure because she knows nothing will happen to her. She arrived with a binder full of dirt to use against anyone who criticized her or the president. This confirms a system of blackmail and forced compliance. We must identify the strongest defense argument presented. We will then dismantle it using the law and the sources. The strongest defense argument was presented by Attorney General Pam Bondi and supported by former Attorney General Schmidt of Kansas. Their defense is that the department is focused on serious, violent crimes committed by immigrants in specific states. Bondi refused to answer Crockett's questions. Instead, she launched a counterattack. She demanded to know why Crockett did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Bondi claimed Jeffries took money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. Bondi then read from a list of convicted criminals. She cited a person from Cuba convicted of homicide, arson, and a weapon offense in Texas. She cited Cecil Joseph from the Dominican Republic, convicted for kidnapping and rape in Texas. She cited Khalid Khan from Afghanistan. Bondi stated that this is why the committee wants to talk about Epstein, to avoid talking about what is happening in their own states. Representative Schmidt supported this defense. He called the hearing a spectacle. He claimed he ran for Congress to fix serious problems together. He praised Bondi for serving professionally. We now dismantle this defense. This is not a legal defense. This is what the public record correctly identifies as immediate whataboutism. The purpose of the hearing was to examine the core mission of the Department of Justice. The purpose was to question the Attorney General on federal corruption, civil rights, and the Epstein files. Pointing to state-level convictions in Texas does not answer questions about federal bribery tapes. Highlighting a homicide in Texas does not explain why the Department of Justice is spending taxpayer resources arresting journalists. Highlighting an arson conviction does not explain why the department killed the investigation into Tom Homan accepting a bribe. Highlighting a kidnapping in Texas does not explain why 38,000 references to the president exist in the Epstein files. Furthermore, Bondi's attack regarding Hakeem Jeffries is a deflection from her own jurisdiction. She is the Attorney General. If a crime occurred, she has the power to investigate it. Complaining about it in a hearing while refusing to answer questions about her own department's actions is a surrender of her legal duty. As the public record states, her defense against covering up criminals is simply saying they caught some criminals in another state. The public sees through this. One observer noted, "Is she going to pull up mugshots from every state whenever she cannot answer questions?" Another noted that she brought no evidence to dispute Crockett's claims, only pictures of other criminals. This defense fails on every legal and procedural level. It is a distraction designed to protect federal corruption by pointing at local crime. Deflection is not evidence. Deflection is an admission that the underlying claims cannot be factually refuted. We pause for legal education in plain English. You must understand the mechanics of what happened in that room. Representative Crockett explained the basic rules of a witness. When you come into a space and somebody is a witness, they sit there and they answer questions. They do not ask questions. A witness does not get to interrogate the committee. That reverses the constitutional order of oversight. When a witness fails to actually answer the question asked, lawyers use a specific objection. That objection is called non-responsive. Attorney General Pam Bondi was entirely non-responsive. Because she was non-responsive, Representative Crockett chose not to ask her questions. Crockett stated she would not ask questions of a witness who revealed she had no intentions of answering them. Instead, Crockett asked basic questions of her colleague, Becca Ballant. She asked if raping children was right or wrong. Ballant said wrong. She asked if killing random citizens was right or wrong. Ballant said definitely wrong. She asked if enriching yourself as the sitting president was right or wrong. Ballant said definitely wrong. Crockett did this to establish a baseline of reality that the Attorney General refused to provide. We must also understand the law regarding presidential compensation. Representative Crockett mentioned a $230 million payday for the president. She stated this is unconstitutional. The Constitution is strictly clear on this matter. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. This is a fundamental safeguard against corruption. It prevents the commander-in-chief from being bought by foreign or domestic interests. The Department of Justice facilitating a $230 million payday is a direct violation of this constitutional mandate. Finally, we must understand obstruction of justice. When federal agents have someone on tape accepting a bribe, the law requires an investigation. When the Department of Justice steps in and kills that investigation, that is the definition of obstructing justice. It is using the shield of the law to protect the guilty. We issue a professional judgment on responsibility and fitness. Attorney General Pam Bondi is not fit for the office she holds. This is not a partisan judgment. This is a forensic conclusion based on her conduct and the public record. Representative Crockett questioned her basic legal competence. Crockett stated she is not really sure what law school Bondi went to or what kind of cases she tried. Crockett stated Bondi does not understand how it works with witnesses. Crockett delivered the ultimate professional judgment. She told Bondi that she will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice. An attorney general who has prioritized corruption over the law. An attorney general who has prioritized fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. The public evidentiary record universally supports this judgment of unfitness. The public recognizes that Bondi is an embarrassment to the legal profession. Observers noted that her smugness says everything about her law school qualifications. They noted she belongs behind bars for obstructing justice and lying under oath. The public recognized that she lacked basic empathy, noting she had no feelings for the women who were assaulted. A competent attorney general acknowledges victims of crime. Bondi ignored them. As the public record states, you cannot get the truth from someone who has already lost her soul. Observers called for her to be disbarred. They called for her to be impeached. They noted she is absolutely disgusting and an absolute disgrace. Her professional fitness is non-existent. She operates as a shield for the powerful rather than an independent prosecutor for the people. We build the expert authority stack. We rely on the credentials of those on the record. We have Representative Jasmine Crockett. She is a lawyer. She understands courtroom procedure. She understands the rules of evidence. The public record notes that Crockett is a lawyer, and it shows. She is representing the people of the United States and the survivors with integrity and conviction. We have Representative Becca Ballant, who established the basic moral and legal baseline that the Attorney General refused to acknowledge. We have Representative Thomas Massey. He is a Republican. Representative Crockett specifically applauded him. She stated he is the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. This cross-partisan acknowledgement validates the severity of the crisis. We also have former Attorney General Schmidt of Kansas. He served as an Attorney General for 8 years. He serves as an expert authority on how the establishment protects its own. He praised Bondi. He dismissed the hearing as a spectacle. The public record judged him harshly, noting that snakes stick together and that he is an embarrassing supporter. The credentials in the room show a stark divide between those demanding answers and those protecting the administration. Before we close, one quick clarification. Everything presented in this narration is drawn from public records, congressional transcripts, filed evidence, and documented judicial proceedings. This is not a call to action of any kind. It is a forensic examination of publicly available information presented with the understanding that reasonable people examining the same facts may reach different conclusions about their meaning and significance. The purpose here is not to tell you what to think. It is to ensure that the record is clearly stated, fairly organized, and accessible to anyone willing to engage with it seriously. If you found this examination useful, if it prompted you to look further, to question more, to demand more from the institutions that serve you, that is the only outcome this work is designed to produce. Thoughtful disagreement is welcome. Informed engagement is the point. If you want to continue examining the record, this is where that work continues.